This. David, so great to have you on the call with us, this Gym Mastery podcast. You came up in a conversation that I was having, a Gym Mastery episode with Chris Plentis, and I'm super pumped to be able to connect with you, and chat about all things business ownership, productivity, and then like whatever else kind of we discover along the way. I know because I did some research before this our little podcast here, and I know a little bit about your background. But for those who are listening that don't necessarily know, could you do just a quick overview of your journey into fitness and into gym ownership and kind of what's brought you to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So my kind of background is I played sports all through middle school, high school, and college. I got into training in 7th grade. I was really tall and lean, and everyone told me how skinny I was, and I didn't want to be called skinny anymore. So I kind of became I kind of became obsessed with training in 7th grade to the point where my high school yearbook or whatever group voted that in 10 years I would own a gym.
Nice.
And I went back to my high school union. I was like, I got that one right. That's awesome.
You're right.
But I ended up playing football in college at Delta State. I got a degree in exercise science and minored in nutrition. And I wanted to be a college strength and conditioning coach at the time. So I actually got on staff at LSU, worked there for a little bit, came back to Memphis and ran a sports development facility for a bit. Thought I wanted to go into physical therapy school. So I left there, started personal training at a commercial gym, and went back to take on my prereqs for a PT school. Quickly realized like PT was not what I wanted to do. I just needed to be in a little bit more active environment. And I mean, like on one of my rotations, I did inpatient PT for like hip replacement rehab, which is basically just walking people. You'd be like, hey, Mr. Johnson, it's time for your 20-minute walk. Hey, Mrs. Johnson, it's time for your 20-minute walk. I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
So I also realized like I'm just not a good fit for their commercial gym. So after about 2 years of doing that, I was 25. I decided to open up my own facility. So I opened up NBS Fitness in 2011. I've grown a bunch since then. So we're in our 10th year now. We do group training, personal training, nutrition coaching. We do have a 24-hour access piece as well because we're like a full-size commercial gym that caters for people who are serious about training. We do have a recovery room on site as well, an athletic trainer that provides different recovery modalities, custom programming, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how the gym came about. Personally, after college, I needed something to compete in. So I kind of did the gamut. I competed in bodybuilding. I did powerlifting. I did Olympic lifting. I did some strongman. I did some endurance races. I kind of said, you know what, I like powerlifting the most. And I powerlifted for basically 10 years with a brief stint into bodybuilding in that 10 years, then went back to powerlifting. I got up to like 285 because I had an elite total at 220 and 242. And I said, I got the numbers. If I push up to 285, I can actually get 308 and 275 elites. And I'll have elite at 4 weight classes. And then my body just like broke down. It was like, dude, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be 285.
That's legit. I mean, you're putting your body through the ringer, like with that sort of training and getting that much size.
Yes. And it was just like my joints hurt. I was fat. I had like high blood pressure, sleeping with the CPAP. I was like, I remember going outside and like trying to hit the tire one day with like a sledgehammer and just like making it 30 seconds. It was like, I used to play college football. Like, what the heck happened? And it just like clicked. I was like, I want to be an athlete again. So then I started doing our group training, which was CrossFit, and have been doing that ever since. So about 5 years. Nice,
man. So, you've really gone down, had a lot of experience in different areas of fitness. And so when you found CrossFit, were you just like, okay, this is this mixed modal sort of lots of different stuff. Is this where you wanted to stay?
Well, yeah. So, to give you a little bit of background, see, I opened up my gym in 2011, and that was just around the time like a lot of the original CrossFits started popping up and were more you started seeing them more regularly. And that was also in like the early days of CrossFit were just in the internet or social media when like just some really ridiculous stuff was going on.
No one knew what they were doing.
Exactly. So, my initial impression of CrossFit, especially coming from like a strength and conditioning background or powerlifting background, was like, what the heck are these crazy people doing? Especially the idea of like just throw it up on the board type programming. But then I got to watch CrossFit from the periphery and see the adjustment and the development, and people kind of actually learn how to program correctly for mixed modality fitness. And I kind of got to the point myself when I always realized this. I like being an athlete and feeling capable and confident in my ability to kind of take on anything. Right. I had focused on powerlifting for a significant period of time, and I saw the response, my body's response to prioritizing one thing and then pushing everything back. And I was like, I don't want that anymore. And so the thing about CrossFit that I liked was like, I get to feel the benefits of all the different fitness capacities. I was like, I like being strong, but I don't want to just only be strong at the sacrifice of all other fitness components.
Right.
And so in doing it and then seeing my body's response, I was like, okay, yeah. To me, the beautiful thing about CrossFit or whatever you want to call it, mixed modality training, is it's like a great main highway that you can go down. It's like if you follow this, you're going in the right direction. If there's a period of time where you want to kind of like veer off a little bit to go explore this, that's cool. And then you come back onto that main highway. And that's kind of where I was like, I don't want to compete in anything anymore. I just want to be healthy and fit. And I had gone way off in one direction. I was like, kind of get back to that, that fitness ability where everything's pretty good,
Right. Yeah. Like, just that well-rounded. And, as you were talking, I just wrote a note down here because in those early days, like 2010, 2011. I mean, obviously CrossFit's been around longer than that, but like that's when it really started gaining momentum. And when you started having more people coming in, there's this watered down effect. And the original philosophy, this virtuosity aspect, and I talk about this a lot, like just in terms of what CrossFit is and what it's meant to be, it gets watered down. And then I'm sure you've seen that picture, like when you were talking about the craziness, I remember that picture in that competition where the person had a pair of rings and it was like draped around the guy's neck and he was doing ring push-ups on the guy's neck and between like boxes or something. It was just like, that encompasses, everything that's wrong when you get, people that don't necessarily have a background, but they see these creative and they're like, wow, I'm just going to mix all this stuff together and we're just going to create something, but it's missing out on the fundamentals of like what it's supposed to be,
stupid human tricks.
Yeah, exactly. And so like along those lines, like you've obviously gone down the path, lots of different stuff. So like fitness, like lessons learned within fitness. And also I mentioned it before the call, but I was reading through some of your website, your gym's website, and seeing the body as a physical vessel to allow the pursuit of other things and make you better at life in general. And that was one concept that really always I was a big fan of, is just like when you're well-rounded in fitness and you can take these concepts and you can take your weaknesses and you can work on them in other areas of your life too. There's like a philosophical benefit. There's, a physical benefit. So you have more energy. So tell me a little bit about, as you've evolved, lessons learned within fitness, and then like what you teach to your members in terms of like treating the body as a vessel.
Yeah. So there's a couple of concepts that we'll explain to people. And one is the idea of like the fitness, wellness, sickness continuum. Mm-hmm. And the way that I explain it to people is this: health is a measurement of the degree of your body's ability, or the degree of illness or disease or dysfunction within your body. So health is a measurement of disease or dysfunction in your body. If you're sick, you have the presence of disease and dysfunction. If you're well, you have the absence of disease and dysfunction. And if you're fit, you have the resistance to disease and dysfunction. And then fitness can be measured across multiple capacities. So we can measure strength. We can measure aerobic capacity. We can measure mobility, flexibility, and we can measure different other metrics like A1C, blood pressure, resting heart rate, all these things, right? And you can't really say that you have a state of health within your body if one area is really high, but then every other area is extremely low. And so from the concept of training, I try to explain to people that there's a difference between activity, exercise, and training. Activity is things done within your current capacities. They don't push your limits. They don't improve you. They're just things within your current capacity. So like walking, gardening, washing your car. That's not exercise. Stuff. Yeah, that's just activity.
Yeah.
Exercise are things that pushes your current capacities, but training is organized and purposeful, pushing your capacities. And so one of the things that we encourage people to do is get out of the mode of just being okay with activity or exercise and start getting into the mode of training with purpose, because it would be a shame for you to spend all this time and energy exercising and have the same fitness level as someone who's never done it. For example, if you did Zumba every day and you're super passionate about it, you went to it every single day, you're doing Zumba for an hour, 5 days a week, you do that for 10 years. And then we ask you to do a pull-up and you can't do a single pull-up, where you have the same fitness capacity when it comes to upper body pulling strength as someone who's never exercised a day in their life. Right. You, the person who exercises 5 days a week, has the same fitness capacity as someone who's 400 pounds and never exercises. So that is unacceptable. That's a waste of time and energy. So if we're going to do this, we're going to take the time and energy to do it. It needs to be purposeful and organized. And unless we are competing at a high level, then it needs to encompass all the different capacities. Yes, training should be fun, but more than anything, it should be effective.
Right.
If our training is primarily based around what is fun, then potentially we're going to spend a lot of time going nowhere, and that's no way to approach something. And so we encourage our people to recognize that the body is the vehicle in which the soul experiences life. And if you fail to take care of this body, it's going to have a negative impact on your experiences and your impacts. So this is a filter. This body is our filter for life. And if we don't take care of it, then that's going to have a negative impact on the things that are flowing in and flowing out of that. And we only get one go round at this thing called life. And we have to recognize that the choices that we make with regards to our body not only affect us and the small circle, but then they affect our close friends and our family in the bigger circle, and then our community, our country, our world as a whole. And so everyone deserves to live a healthy and fit life and to experience life through a vehicle that's well taken care of. But it's not easy. It's hard. And that's what we're here for as a facility, is to help people take care of that vehicle that houses their soul and help guide them, keep them accountable, and coach them through that process so that they can not only live the lives that they deserve, but then have the impacts in those ever-growing circles out. So the way I describe it to some people would be, a lot of people go throughout life as a cup, and they pour a little bit out for work. And they get home, they pour a little bit out, and they pour a little bit more out for their spouse, and their cup's empty at the end of the day. And then every night they're trying to refill that cup. They may refill it with sleep. Some people refill it with wine or alcohol or drugs or caffeine or whatever they can do to kind of fill that cup back up. And we're like, well, why don't you just exercise an hour a day? They're like, I got an empty cup at the end of the day. I don't got any more water in this thing. And I try to explain to people, no. Exercise gives you a bigger cup.
Right.
Taking care of this thing gives you a bigger cup so that I can pour more out and do a better job at work and have more energy at work and have more energy for my family and have more energy for my kids and for my friends and all that kind of stuff, and do a better job of just living life with them, being an example for them. And so it's not this idea that this takes away from all these other things. Like by taking care of this vehicle, you now get to explore the world and live life in a much more beautiful and impactful way.
Yeah, the notes I made, function. Obviously, function in your body, functioning properly, moving properly is super important because it does translate to all sorts of different areas of your life. And then health span, as opposed to lifespan, is a super common concept where you might live a long time, but if you're not functional in that time, at some point you get a disease and then you're bedridden for the next 30 years or something like that. That's not really the best way to live. You want to be able to have functional movements, be able to eat good food, and then extend how much time you can interact in a positive way with the world. And one of those things we are actually working on internally on sort of a diagram, an infographic on that health, the wellness, sickness continuum. And one thing that we've noticed is that a lot of people think that they need to be the games, right? They need to be as fit as possible. But what we've actually seen in practice, there is a point where you get diminishing returns. So if you become too fit, or when you say that, too fit, what's too fit, right? But what I mean by that is when you become so obsessed that it takes the priorities over other areas of your life, and you start to empty your cup because of a bunch of various reasons, and you start burning yourself out, inflammation and all this stuff, and you're chasing and you're pushing and you're trying to get so good where you want to be fit enough that everything's going to go well. And then if you start to go down maybe like a specialization or something, then that's a whole other, you might be sacrificing a little bit of your health in order to attain glory and whatever the things are that you want in life, So yeah, I love that. I love that philosophy, and, chasing function. That was always a really big thing. And what really, appealed to me in the early days was, function is the key. And I want to be able to function well. And then as a product of that, look good, feel good, and all that sort of stuff. But I don't want to flip it and just try to look good only and then not have any real world function. And I have big, biceps or something, but then I can't go on a hike with my family and spend the day doing adventuring,
Yeah. I'll give you a good example. So like when I was powerlifting, at my biggest, I was a 700-pound squatter. But I could not squat like my body weight down and hold it. Like if you hold a body weight squat, like maybe 15 seconds, I don't know. And it definitely wasn't going to be beyond parallel. And when our first kid was born, we had like this tub. In order to get him in the tub, you basically had to squat down and squat out of the tub. And I remember it was probably about a year after having done CrossFit. Now, like I said, I had sacrificed all these things to attain something beyond like what would
normal,
be like normal or even desirably like strong. Like I think like a 2 times body weight squat is like you're a pretty good squatter if you can squat 2 times body weight. And beyond that, any extra strength, the necessary sacrifices you had to make, or just you're gonna end up sacrificing other stuff. So anyways, so I was very strong, but I couldn't like squat my body weight. And I remember I'd been doing it for about a year, and I was squatting down. I'd squat down and hold my kid and like watch him or do whatever it was. I started crying because I was like literally a year ago I couldn't do this to my kid. Like I would have had to been like, hey, my wife Jennifer, can you come watch James because I can't do this, which is kind of like crazy to think. Like I was 700-pound squatter, but I couldn't squat my own child up and down. So like from a functional standpoint, that was like a big kind of boom.
Dude, that's huge. It's such a simple thing, and you wouldn't think about, unless you've experienced both ends, you wouldn't even think about that. Like I've through the years of lifting weights and doing stuff, I've like hurt myself before, right? Obviously, as people heard, I strained my back or something. And I'm thinking like I've strained my back and then I literally can't pick something up off the ground. And I'm incapacitated. And I'm thinking like, there are people that live this way, and it's like, it would always reinvigorate me to be like, okay, I got to get all the things in place that are going to keep me balanced, keep me healthy, because you experience these low points and you're like, okay, well, I don't ever want that to happen again.
1,000%, man. Yes.
And so like through your fitness journey, you're working with people. Obviously, there's another simultaneous journey that's happening, especially like as a gym owner, right? So you open your gym in 2011, and then I opened my gym in 2012. So I was like kind of right around that time. And at the time I was an athlete primarily. I had a business partner, Sean. He's my business partner, Love Method. And he took care of all the business. He came from the corporate world. He was like, had all his stuff together. He was like squared away. And I'm like the athlete, the coach athlete guy that's going to be there, like doing the day to day. And it took me a long time to learn anything about business. I was so focused on my own athletic stuff and, trying to get stronger and taking what I learned and helping with coaching and all that sort, but still sort of selfish in a lot of ways. And then slowly learn some of these business principles and getting, so tell us a little bit about your journey through business ownership specifically and some of the challenges and how that has all gone for you.
Yeah. So yeah, when I opened up my gym, I was 25. And had with zero business experience. So there was a level of immaturity just at the business level and at the personal level as well.
It's pretty common, I think, especially those years.
1,000%. I had something unique in the sense that we were the only, like at the time we were a little bit more of a powerlifting kind of strongman focused gym. But I had something unique in what we were doing. And so, and I think I just had something unique in the message that I was putting out. Our gym's NBS Fitness, which stands for no bullshit. So
I was wondering, that's what I thought it was. I was going to ask you actually.
Yeah, it was kind of just my way of like, just saying like, this is my response to the Globo Gym fitness.
Middle finger in the air.
Yeah, to the fitness industry. It was just like a very 25-year-old move, right? But yeah, man, over the years, a couple of big things that I learned were when I first opened my gym, I opened the gym that I would love. And I didn't realize that like I'm not my ideal client.
Right.
At least at 25, I really wasn't my ideal client. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people in the fitness industry or gym owners or whatnot, that they don't quite understand is that like the guy who's been doing it for 25 years and knows not everything, but knows a lot, like he's not your ideal client.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You can't find 200 of those guys.
Right. And they're also just probably not willing to pay you as much.
Right.
They're not looking for guidance or accountability. Like they got that, right? And so that was a big one. A lot of other ones were
basically understanding who your client was.
Yeah, well, understand who our ideal client was and how to attract them and how to deliver a product and service that that they find value in, and how to maintain them as clients. A bit over the years, a lot of like what I've learned has just been kind of like on the job stuff. And I think one of my skill sets is I'm a pretty good problem solver. Not that I know how to solve the things, but I'm pretty good at finding out where that solution is and asking, I'm not afraid to ask questions. Like, oh, talk to someone. Hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? One thing I've developed over the years is being very good at being very precise about what I am trying to solve or what my questions are. I think I was talking to my wife about this. Like, I think one of the benefits of being in sales myself is I'm a really good person to talk to a salesperson about, because I'll just tell them, here are the things I need the problems you need to solve, or the things I need you to show me value in. Like, I won't beat about around the business. Like, I'm willing to purchase this if you can show me value here or solve my problem this. And and from like the salesman's standpoint, they're like, oh, okay, cool. Like,
Sweet, I'm gonna pinpoint.
Yeah, damn, I'm right there. Or I'll say, or we come to a quick conclusion and go, we're not a good fit. Like, okay, well, I waste your time, you waste mine. See ya. But I've been pretty good at solving problems. And then when I finally realized I basically outgrew my business ownership abilities pretty quick. Within 5 years, we had grown a significant amount. We were moving to a larger facility, and I quickly realized, oh crap, I'm beyond what my current abilities are, and I need help. And that's when I got with Two Brain Business. And that's kind of like when I flipped the script on myself and realized I need coaching at every level. So working with Two Brain has been extremely beneficial to me, just in the sense of recognizing the benefit of having a coach to guide you along the way, keep you accountable, being around other peers who are trying to do the same things. And I think that's been a big shift over the last probably 4 or 5 years, is now like I surround myself with coaches in different areas of my life to help push me forward and keep me accountable. So even the things that I'm a relative expert in, I don't do my own programming. I don't coach myself. I don't do my own nutrition. Like, I don't do any of that stuff because I have seen the value of having a coach in everyone else's lives. Like, I need that same value in my own life. Yeah, another big thing I had to learn was that I don't run a gym. I run a business that just happens to deliver fitness to people. And I had to fall in love with business. I started this with a passion for fitness, and it turned into a passion for business and changing people's lives through fitness. And so, like, if you guys see, like, how did your kind of mindset shift? It's now like I get really excited about business stuff and operations and reporting and all that kind of stuff that, like, systems. When people, like, I remember early on being like, I don't want to do any of this stuff. I'll hire a business manager to do this and I'll just coach. And
good freaking luck.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. So I think some of it just I kind of lucked out in the sense, like, this actually is what I like to do. I like that problem solving. So I like finding systems, system management, like operational stuff. So those are kind of some of the big shifts that I've learned along the way. One thing I like to tell new business owners is that martyrdom is not a good business strategy.
That's true. Yeah, it's the truth for sure.
If you feel so, like, and this was kind of a big thing through last year, was a lot of business owners felt sorry for themselves. They went, this isn't fair. And it's like, yeah, all that stuff's true. And you can have this own internal message and sitting there just being like, complain to yourself, or maybe you can complain to your spouse or whatever, but like your external message has got to be one of confidence, leadership, and a plan, and saying, there's things I can't control, but here's what I can control. This is what we're going to do, and so, like, in talking to most business owners, last year either just put you in the dirt, or was your best year ever, right, or it rocket launched you into your best year ever this year. And I think that's just a response to either playing the victim, having the victim mentality, and just saying, like, woe is me. Be like, when clients don't want to do this, or and always kind of putting the blame on other people, versus going like, okay, we're in this situation. I'm in this situation. What can I do today to make this situation better for myself and everyone in my team? And taking self-responsibility to lead your entire crew out of this thing. And so that would be a lesson I would go back and tell myself, is like, don't put your feelings on social media.
Right.
Your clients don't give a shit. Your clients only care. Like, I love my clients. Some of them are my friends, but they're my clients, and they're my clients because I provide them a value greater than the dollar amount they're exchanging for that. And that is the basis for that relationship. The minute I stop providing a value greater than that dollar amount, they don't have no responsibility to keep giving me their money.
Right. It's a loyalty, right? They're not going to clients in general. Like, I've always thought that, and by that same philosophy, is like, unless you're delivering, it's like, what have you done for me lately? And they're going to leave if they don't. So keep going, keep expanding if you have anything else. That
applies to your staff as well, And I think having gone through some, like, where I am today as a business owner is from outgrowing myself, going through a lot of crap, having a coach go, hey, dude, here's what you're going to do. It's going to suck. It's going to be hard. I'm going to help you. I'm going to keep you accountable, but you're going to do this. And this is the path forward. And you're like, okay, here we go. Okay, we're going to make some big business changes. They're going to be really scary and push me to my limits a little bit. And I mean, I'm going to do it, but then I'm going to go sit in my kind of fear mode and go, oh gosh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then come out and go like, oh, we didn't implode. We survived and it got better over time. Okay, the next hard thing, like let's do that. Oh gosh, this is kind of scary. Okay, we made it through that to the point where like COVID hit. I'm glad that COVID hit when it did, because it hit after 4 years of really tough business growth and learning and struggling and going through having hard conversations with clients and hard conversations with coaches and really pushing me to my limits to the point where like COVID happened. And I was like, well, if I got to do that, if I got through that, I can get through this.
Yeah, it's no problem.
Yeah, and then same thing. I had a coach who's like, hey, yeah, this sucks. You didn't cause COVID. You're not making these rules. Nothing you can do about it. What can you do? This is what we're going to do. Cool. And I think that just led to like an extreme level of confidence and just leadership growth that like, as crazy as it sounds, I'm so glad that like we got that, because it solidified our culture and our team. It got rid of some folks that weren't ideal clients for us and weren't ideal employees for us. They left. Our culture became stronger. All right, everyone saw like who we really were, what we're really about. We led them through it. They were appreciative of that, and then that caused us to grow, because people went like, man, like whatever they're doing, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah,
and that came from new growth in employees. People going like, I want to be a part of what they're doing, and clients. So last year was a tough one, but because it was so tough, just like a tough training session, it forced us to adapt and grow and become stronger on the other side. So I think that's a big lesson that I've learned, because there was like a point 5 years ago, I was like, this kind of sucks. I want to hang this thing up. I was like, running a business is hard. I don't know if I want to do this. And I talked to my friends, and my friends were like, well, yeah, you don't have to do that. Yeah, just do something else. And then I got talked to Chris Cooper, and he was like, no, it's bullshit. You're just being a little baby.
Yeah, I mean, is there any other vehicle as good as business ownership for personal growth?
No.
And yeah, I don't think so either. It's like, it is the vehicle, and there's so many struggles and there's so many challenges, and it's never ending, and it's not going to stop. And it's just about continuing to adapt. And I just wrote, some notes here. Hardships create growth.
Yep.
Right. So it's how we grow is dealing with hardships. And some of the things you were saying in the beginning, the entrepreneur idea of doing everything yourself. And, most of the time, entrepreneur is going to be able to figure things out. They're going to be able to be like, okay, I don't know how to do this, but I'll figure it out along the way. And it sounds like you had that mentality, got to a certain point, and had the understanding to seek out professional help, essentially. Or even if it's not considered professional help, it's like another set of eyes that have a different experience than you, that then can give you perspective to accelerate your learning, accelerate your growth. So you're not stuck in your own patterns anymore, thinking about the things and all the failures and all the little things. Oh, that's not going to work. All the limiting beliefs. You have somebody who has maybe gone through it or has coached a lot of people through it. They can give you insights that will rapidly accelerate your growth. And then tying that in with this idea that the business is the playground. I think of business as like for adults, for like, mature adults who are looking to play the best video game that there ever is, business, and like starting to understand how to tweak and make changes, and to see this thing as a separate entity, as its own living thing, that you're on the outside tweaking, and not looking at it like what you had said is it's a business, not a gym, right? Because a business, you can have a gym business, but if you just have a gym and it's not a business, this is how you burn yourself out very quickly. And it's like you're doing everything, you're making everything, you're grinding, you're the martyrdom idea of like, I'll do it, and then nobody around you, everyone's like, okay, you do it, and now you're doing everything, and then you're expecting everyone to be like, wow, you're so amazing, or whatever, but nobody gives a crap about what you're doing, right? They want the whatever value that you have as a business. The clients are looking for that, and if you're not delivering it, they're going to leave. And I personally went through very, very similar processes of realizing that no one really cares, right? Either you success or failure, no one really cares. It's on you to determine what you want, and then mapping all that stuff out to make it happen. And yeah, I think excuses is another one, is the onus of control. Right. And I'm just repeating what you said. I just took some notes because I think these are really, really good points, because it's very easy to let outside factors affect you. And you have, looking through COVID, you've got these two different owners. You got the ones that are like, I'm behind on my rent. I don't know what to do. There's all these things. Everything's broken down. And then you have the ones that are like, okay, what can I control? What can I do? And then pouring everything into those and just ignoring all the bad stuff. And this is, if you look at success in anything, but especially business, you have to be relentless with that idea, with continuously controlling and focusing on what you are doing as opposed to what anybody else is doing, because none of that really matters, right? If you're looking at that, you're expending energy in a way that is not going to be productive for you.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, and it's just not good mentally to sit there and be like, I'm not in control. There's a recognition, like there's some things I don't have control over, but spending my time and energy worrying about that, it's not getting me anywhere. That's just gonna keep me up at night. Let me focus on the thing I can control. And then, if it doesn't work out, then hey, I did my best. I can sleep at night knowing I did my best.
Exactly. And along the same line, it begs the question. So how does one do that? And this comes down, like the keys to gym ownership. We kind of talked about a lot of the really important things, but then how do I distill down? And this comes more to like choosing what's important, some of the planning ideas. I know you do vivid vision, which is, it's basically like a distilled way of planning where you do a big vision of what you want in the future, and these turn into plans. So like for a gym owner that's, okay, this is all great stuff, it's like philosophical. There is a point where it needs to transition into actually getting it done, right? Like, how do I actually get it done? What do I need to do? And some of the things, systems, routines, battling overwhelm, prioritizing, figuring out what needs to be worked on, what you're doing on a weekly basis. So tell me and the listeners kind of what, like in terms of productivity or in terms of getting it actually done, what have you found has really worked? Working with Two Brain, I'm sure they have some really good strategies. We got on with my podcast with Chris Plentis, he talked about some of the things you gave him in terms of really cool ideas. So tell us a little bit about that, like that whole world.
Yeah. So the whole idea about vivid vision is to kind of project out 3 years in the future and say, what do I want my business to look like 3 years in the future, so that you have an actual like endpoint to shoot for. So the idea being that if you're trying to go on a journey, you have to have a clear picture of like where you're going, so you can put it into GPS and say like, oh, okay, now that I know where I'm going, now I can kind of plan out my steps to get there. If you don't have a very clear picture of that, then it's hard to make wise decisions on a day-to-day basis, because things are going to pop up. Then you go, ooh, that's flashy and shiny. Like maybe we'll do that. But if that doesn't fall within your vivid vision picture, then you'll do that thing and it'll just distract you and take you away from actually moving your business forward. And I think the nice thing about the vivid vision, I think for us, especially being in it 10 years and being like, we're a pretty big gym, we have 450 members and 20 so staff. So there's a lot of things that kind of pop up on a daily basis that are like, ooh, we could do that. And one of the things about the vivid vision is it helps us kind of go back and say, is that something moving us forward, or is that just something kind of distracting us? Like even it might be a good thing. If it doesn't fall into that vivid vision, then we're just going to ignore it. Yes, that would be a cool thing, but we're not going to do it because we're going this way. So the vivid vision is that kind of endpoint. And then what we do is we come up with kind of 90-day focuses, 90-day sprints. And we actually do this as a business. We do it individually as staff, and then we take it down to our clients as well. And we say, hey, over the next 90 days, what's the thing we're going to focus on, so that we can actually ensure that we're making forward progress and not being distracted. So with our clients, we basically use a SIM model, sleep, eat, move, manage. And we say, red, yellow, green, where are you on these different things? So if you come to us, you're like, I want to lose 5% body fat, and I want to do my first muscle up, and I want to do this. And we're like, okay, cool. Sleep, eat, move, manage. Where's your stuff? And you're like, red on sleep. Like, well, what's going on? Why don't we get 5 hours of sleep a night? Then yes, we could sit there and focus on nutrition. We could focus on doing that first muscle up, but like the biggest thing holding you back is sleeping. So until we address that issue, there's no point in us doing this rest of the stuff. Same thing with our staff. We use called the 6 F's. I'm gonna forget what they are: fitness, finance, freedom, faith, family, and then there's one more. But anyways, and basically we say, okay, what would you like to see? Where are you currently? Where did you go the last 90 days? And then we say, where you want to go the next 90 days. But then we make a focus on how to pick up a priority. So basically, like, what would look cool the next 90 days? And go pick one. Mm-hmm. If you knock that one out before 90 days, you can go to the next one. But so, like for a staff member, they make it, well, I want to add $500 a month to my payroll, and I also want to level up to black. Okay, what's more important to you? Well, I want to add the $500 to my payroll. Okay. So until you added $500 to your payroll, we're not adding any extra training sessions to get you to black. You're going to spend any extra time following through on these task lists for that, and maybe calling old clients and maybe talking to current clients and see if you can get them to bump up to a next training session, whatever. But that's your focus for that 90 days. Once you do that, then you can go to your next one. So we take the big kind of 3-year plan, and then we distill it down into 90-day chunks.
Keep going.
I was going to say, for example, so over the last 90 days, our focus has been as a staff to grow the group training. So basically, most of our trainers have kind of maxed out all of their personal training time, and we felt like the biggest area of growth potential was in the group training. So then we kind of go, what are the tasks that we need as a company need to do to kind of help grow group training? Well, let's start putting out more messaging through Facebook or through social media for that. Let's interview a handful of group training clients and put their interviews in our newsletters to go out. Let's create some videos for group training, push those out. Let's do some bring a friend days. So like the 90 days, we said, here's where we are. Here's our target. Here's the action steps we're going to take to try to hit that target. Now execute, and we'll just kind of check it along the way. I mean, every month, we're like, okay, we had 10 more members. Okay, cool. We added 10 more members. Right, cool. We're tracking to reach our goal. So the big 3-year plan distilled into 90-day chunks. Then we SOP the crap out of everything. SOP means standard operating procedure. So we basically have a Google folder that everything exists on, and certain people have information or have access to that. And we have a Slack communication channel. And so basically, like the way our hiring would work is, and this just kind of gets distilled down. And since I write down an SOP for hiring someone, and I give that to my head coach or to my general manager and say, here's how you're going to hire somebody. Then I'll take them through it. Then they'll take me through it. And then I say, okay, cool. Now you're going to hire this next person. I'm going to watch you and give you feedback as you go. Okay, you did good. Now you're on your own. You can hire anyone. You know exactly how. If you ever forget, go back to the thing, because we don't hire someone every month. So
and that's why you need an SOP, right?
How
did I do that again?
and then one thing I don't do the best job of this is I try not to be everyone's lifesaver.
Mm-hmm. Deal with the pain. If there's something weird, you got to figure it out.
Yeah. So like someone's like, David, how do I do this? I go, I'll try to say, find out 3 solutions and bring them to me. Mm. or I don't know, I'll let you know in 3 days. So someone told me one time that they ignored any emergent emails from their staff for 3 days. And then after 3 days, they went, hey, did you ever figure this out?
It's all figured out. Yeah.
So I don't like leave them out to drive. It's something that you're like, oh yeah, you're probably not going to figure this one out. I'll help them out. But I try to make everything SOP'd and create an avenue for them to solve their own problems.
Well, like a great example is like, Mom, where's the remote?
Yeah.
It's like, and if mom goes and gets the remote and gives it to him, what does the kid do? Yeah. Every time, Mom, where's the remote? But if mom doesn't answer, the kid's can go find the remote.
I don't know. You're gonna find it. Right. So that's been helpful, SOPing everything and then making it clear where everything exists. Like having it very organized where, like for example, our front desk, there's a Google folder. It says NBS Fitness Cordova. Then there's a subfolder that says front desk. And then there's a document that says how to do everything. Alphabetically listed, like how to sell a retail product, how to sell a day pass, how to sell a how to do inventory. And then sometimes if they're doing it incorrectly, I go watch these videos. So it's not a whole lot of that way. It's not taking my time and energy every time to remind someone how to do that. Or like I said, if we hire someone, hey, you're front desk now. Watch all these videos. Now do these videos with the front desk staff who's been here for a while. And then when they say yeah, they know how to do it, then you're on the schedule. So SOPing everything's been helpful. Then for myself, what I use is a app called Todoist. And the nice thing about Todoist, so there's actually a guy named David Allen. He's not me.
I know. I was thinking that the whole time, dude.
But and I can't remember what the name of his book is. But basically,
it's just getting things done. GTD.
That's right. And I kind of I don't go quite as extreme as some people go down that rabbit hole, but
it's 80-20, right? It's 80-20. Like you do the stuff that's going to give you the biggest benefit. You don't need to know all the details, but you're doing the big things.
Gotcha. Yeah. No. With some people, like they super organize it. Like they've got like in Todoist, you can make it like, let's say you want to assign a time frame to each thing and you want to like organize your stuff based off the thing. I got 15 minutes. What takes 15 minutes? To me, that takes more time to organize it than it does keep getting it done. But yeah, so what I do is anything that ever comes to my head is like, that's something I need to do. I just put it in Todoist, like everything on the planet. Literally, buy my wife a birthday present is in there. So this says change my air filters like in my house. So anything I'm ever like, oh yeah, I should remember to do that. I can't remember to do anything. So I just put it in Todoist because it will remember to do everything for me.
Now, how did you find out what got you started in that world?
A buddy explained it to me, and this was along the time where like, again, I had outgrown my,
you needed a solution essentially.
The way I call it is like, your organizational and emotional capacity is typically going to be your limiting factors for growth in business, meaning like your ability to emotionally handle more things or not necessarily more things, but to effectively emotionally handle problems, good things, all that kind of stuff. And then your organizational capacity are usually the limiting factors. So at the time, my organizational and emotional capacity was at its limits. I was like, okay, that was stressful. I was like, I either got to like release this stress, which I was like, oh, do I want to keep on in business? Or I got to find a better way to expand this capacity. So I learned how to expand my organizational capacity. And he kind of gave me this framework and I kind of took it and individualized it a little bit. But that's so anything that ever comes in my head, I capture it and just put it in Todoist. And then every single week I look at what's coming up and every day I look at what's coming up and then I organize it based off of priority and then just assign a time in my calendar to do it. So for that week, if I'm like this week, I'm like redoing my client journey. So like this will probably take about 2 hours. So then I look into my calendar and I just put out a space that says reorganize client journey. Boom. But then what I'll also do, and this is something I have to really work on, is I go, anything I can delegate, let me delegate that. Anything. And what that's, I'm sure you've seen the kind of quadrant that's like important versus urgent. So anything that's important or that's urgent but not important, I try to delegate it. So like for example, today was like change the filter on our cold tub. Hey, front desk, you need to change the filter on the cold tub. Then I get checked that off in my box and I can go do my other stuff. So that's been helpful. And then another thing, one thing that we've really been working on is how do we scale to 1,000? So our 3-year goal was 1,000 members between 3 locations. And so this is one way that the vivid vision kind of helps because as we're having conversations, we were talking about redoing the client journey. And like one thing that we do is we send out like birthday cards and 6-month cards and 1-year anniversary cards. And we've been handwriting them. Nice. And we have a discussion about like, well, should we handwrite them? Should we do this? And I was like, hey, look, can you handwrite 1,000 cards? That's 100 cards every single month. Are you ready to do that? It's like, no, we can't scale to 1,000 that way. So what's the solution we have to do? And it was like, yes, right now we are writing that, but that's not how we're going to scale to 1,000. We need to figure out the solution now that we can scale. And so we talked about how to do that. We use VAs for gyms. I'm sure you know, Scott. And so there's a lot of the processes within our own facility that I'm like, okay, what can I SOP and pass off that I don't have to train someone new on? They're important things. Like for example, our retail. It's like we have an inventory. We have to pull inventory and see what needs to be reordered. But then I have to teach that to someone every time. I have to rely on that person to do it. It's previously our gym manager was doing that. It's like, do I want my gym manager spending time doing something that is retail? it's important. It's somewhat important, but it's not like super important in helping us drive towards our ultimate vision. I was like, no, who else can I have do that? The VAs. Okay, we're gonna pass the thing off to the VAs. So by getting super organizing, SOPing everything, then that helps me delegate the right tasks to the right people, ensure that it's getting done so that I'm not worried about some of the day-to-day tasks, and I can always kind of have my head up and out. Jocko talks about that, up and out. If you're the leader, you can't be down and in. Always focus. Yeah, you can't be in here. If you're in this day-to-day stuff, you're going to miss opportunities. You're not going to be aware of threats. So as I'm kind of organizing my stuff, I go, okay, what's important? What's the thing? So what's the one thing that I'm the only person that can do? Right. Anything else, I try to delegate it to someone else. And I used to do is to capture those things. So a lot of times I'll think of things that are important and I'll put it in, but like I'm not actually doing that task. It'll just pop up like, yeah, that's something we got to do, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna get someone else to do it so I can focus on the important stuff.
You know, I really hope people are listening just because this is extremely valuable stuff, like from the top down. So just to distill it, right? You have a vivid vision, big high level of what you want to get done. And everybody should essentially, even in their own life, you have those 6 areas. You have maybe a vivid vision in each of those areas, a vivid vision for your life. You could do all that sort of stuff. Doesn't need to be that crazy, but you got a big thing. These chunk down into 90-day plans, right? The 90-day plans then are like, okay, what do we want to get done in this relatively reasonable amount of time? 3 years, 5 years, it's not very, I can't control that, but 90 days, okay, that's a controllable time frame. And then what's the one thing, right? I might have a whole bunch of things, but what's the most important thing? And then I focus on that one thing. And what's really interesting within Level Method, we have this, you may have seen it, I'm not sure. We're just kind of like rolling it out, the planning software that we built, which is we call everything that we do, we're calling COPE. Okay. So it's clear outcome, purpose, and then your execution plan. So COPE, clear outcome, purpose, execution. What do we want? And then why do we want it? And then what's next to actually make that happen? And then what's the most important thing? And then I can see that and I can stay focused over the long term to measurably move that thing forward. And when I lose sight and I get distracted by a bunch of stuff, I can come back to my list and be like, oh yeah, that's actually what we're working on. And I think that just that factor of gym ownership or any business, right? There's so many things to focus on all the time. And to distill down to have the one thing, you can define that one thing, but unless you revisit it and remind yourself, you can still get distracted and go down. And you've done a great plan and you've done all this stuff, but then you haven't looked at it for 3 weeks or a month, and now you're doing something completely different, and it gets all cobwebbed. I think everybody has experienced that. You get excited, you build a plan, and then you don't ever look at the plan again. So it's like, what the hell did I do? So the idea is always revisiting that, and that comes back to the accountability, right? So making sure that we have accountability, and then even most important, or even more important than that, is lead measures. Right. So you had like, okay, what's the one thing? Okay, the one thing is great, but what are the 3 actions that are going to push that one thing forward? And those actions usually are habit-based types of things, right? So I got to come to the gym 3 times a week or whatever these things are. But you can still see how you go from a very big thing, distill it down into these smaller things. And then as a client or a business owner, I leave with like the one thing, and I got to, check my finances once a week on Fridays. I always do that. And I'm always going to do that. Because if you start to slip, we call it creep, right? Things creep in and you forget about it. And then before you know it, you're not doing it anymore. And then the wheels fall off like 3 months later. And you're like, shit, I got to get these disciplines in place. So I think like just from that, like that distillation for people that are listening are just beautiful. And the sleep, eat, move, manage, it's just simplifying things down into only 4 choices, right? Because what ends up happening is we overcomplicate and there's way too many choices. And then I had SOPs, right? So figuring out in your business, the primary things, getting those things together, making sure that you're documenting processes. You have an easy way to communicate with your people. You use Slack, right? And I think Slack's a really great tool because it's a centralized location. Talking about capturing, right? Like a lot of people don't have a system like you have. To do is you got things 3. I personally use OmniFocus. There's a wide variety of tools you can use, but it doesn't really matter what tool you use. What matters is the concept of putting something in a single location, and Slack can kind of do that for the whole team, right? Like you put everything into one place and people don't get lost. And then the personal system. So your personal system, if anybody's interested in learning about the personal system, there's a blog series on Level Method about COPE. It's called Capture. Now this COPE is different. Capture, number 1, organize, plan, engage. These 4 steps that you need to have. Now, the fact that you are, the overwhelm factor, your description of why you got into the organization thing is identical to why I got into it. 100% identical. I'm like, how am I supposed to get everything done? Like, how am I actually supposed to, it's like, no one ever teaches you these things, right? Like put things in one place and then create lists and then like prioritize these lists. But if you can get that in place, I think it really makes a huge difference. And then finally, delegation, right? So anything that you can find that you don't need to do, because think about it, like you think about productivity, and it's a big buzzword, right? Productivity, it's like, okay, I'm going to do my work. You can't really get any more productive than doing, well, you can, I'm going to say in a minute, but than doing the most important thing in a focused way. The way you become more productive is by you have simultaneous things happening because you've delegated the things, right? So I just think that this was, beautiful, man. Like this is exactly what people need in terms of figuring out from a gym owner. You have 450 members, right? And 450 members is an outlier within the gym ecosphere, right? The gym world. Like it's not very many gym owners who have 450 members that are also doing a podcast, have a family, running multiple projects, training, right? Right when you got on this call, you just finished working out. It's like these sorts of things are not possible unless you have these sorts of things in place. So just in terms of having 450 members and looking at all of your SOPs, is in your mind, is there any chance that where you've come from and where you are now and what the business is doing, is there any chance that it would be possible but without the elements that you sort of just went through?
None. 1,000% no.
Totally impossible, right?
I'm about to open up a second location and a ninja gym.
There you go.
And then people are like,
how do you do it?
I go, I'm just really organized and have a good team that I trust. And so like, I see the vision and I say, okay, well, in order to make that happen, here's a task list that have to occur. And then I just organize that in the order of, okay, well, first I got to find a building. And I got this.
Project planning.
It's project planning.
Now,
that you do that, or you can do this. I need you to do this. Why do that? And that's how we make forward progress. And so when you look at that project plan, it's like when I look at it, I'm like, holy crap, that's huge. That's a big list. But I just go, well, all right, what's the most important thing? What's the one thing that we can get done this week? And then we do that. And then as you do that, we just kind of start chipping away. And then you're like, oh man, we're halfway there. We got 6 more weeks. All right, cool. We're on time,
Now with that, like one thing that I'm exactly of the same mentality. Like, and I've noticed, building projects and doing that pre-thinking is hard, right? Not very many people are going to do that pre-thinking. Now, what have you found that helps you do that? And why do you do that? Because, when you think about, okay, I'm going to build that, you got to sit down and you got to do the work, and there's no way around it, right? There's no way to be like, I'm going to half-ass my plan. It's not going to work. You got to do it. So walk us through maybe your process and what you think about and what makes you actually do it.
Yeah. What makes me actually do it? I think, I'm a task-oriented person. I am competitive, and I am, I'm trying to think of the right word. I like challenges. Mm-hmm. So, I think part of the motivation is like, some people like they want to escape life sometimes. Like they're like, oh, just like I work the Monday through Friday, I can just relax on the weekends. Like I can't wait till my next vacation. And like I enjoy all those things, but to me, like I find joy and
satisfaction, fulfillment,
purpose and fulfillment out of getting things done. I like doing things. I like feeling like I'm moving forward. And so that's kind of one of my motivations. And I like leading other people toward to do those things and feel those things. And I'm passionate about fitness. So like, I think all that just kind of collectively comes together to kind of help to create that desire in me. Is like, once I get something done, I got my business where it's like, I can take a month off, 2 months off, 3 months off and literally work from my phone. And so like I all day could just not go to work. That's boring to me. I like to work. So once I got this business to that standpoint, I was like, what's the next thing? I want to do more. Right. So I think that's part of like what pushes me. I can't tell you whether that's a good thing, a bad thing, or right or wrong. It's just who I am. And
it's like in prior successes, like you've seen it working. I think that might be a really big, barrier for people that haven't necessarily seen it work. Yeah. Right. And they don't have the experience of building that plan and then seeing that plan through and then coming out the other side and realizing like, without that plan, what would we have done? How would we have gotten here? It would have been impossible, So I think anybody, that is thinking about how do you achieve more, do more, and do it with less stress, you've got to embrace these fundamental disciplines that are sometimes not fun to do, but they lay the foundation. And if you can embrace them and really become like, I want to use the word virtuosity, like taking that same approach and getting good at all these things and not making that when you capture as an example, the capture habit, the capture discipline, I'm sure and I'm sure you keep yourself sharp, where occasionally you might be like, I don't need to capture that. Like it comes into your mind, but then as soon as that comes up, you're like, no, I got to capture it. Because if you let it slip, then you're like, oh no, I'll remember that thing. No. Everything needs to go in there because it's the, your mental bandwidth. Your brain's going to relax and realize. So, but you'll find, did you ever have that happen? Like in the early days, would you sometimes capture things, sometimes not? And you learned over time, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like people will see me and like I have my phone and they're like, you'll say something.
Why are you on your phone? Yeah.
I'm like in our meetings, we're having meetings, like
captured.
Like, captured. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm capturing everything I might have to do. Like, if it pops in there, I'm like, man, I don't have to do that. Like, I'll just take it off my list.
But by default,
I'm capturing everything. One way that I kind of organize like the future businesses, I basically have a notes section on my phone as well, and I kind of just laid out everything. I just have a brain dump about different categories for like the business. So, pricing, options, equipment, expenses, you name it. I just wrote down as many categories as I could possibly think in my notes section. And then as I kind of create my business plan, I'm going through those categories, adding things to them. If I get to a sticking point, I go, okay, I don't know about that. I can have a conversation with someone. Then I go and have the conversation, take those notes, put that out. And then over time, then I've got like all these notes. Basically for 2 weeks, I just had brain dumped and put all these ideas down for the second location, had conversations with people. I had all this information. Like, cool. And I just condensed this down to an actual business plan.
Now, I just want to bring people's attention to one thing you said there, which was over 2 weeks. Now that used to be like, I'm gonna have a brainstorming session. If you do it this way, brainstorming essentially is eliminated, like because you're capturing, growing. And then when you sit down to have a brainstorming session on the plan, it's like, boom, everything's here for you to work from.
Everything's right there. And so basically like I've got a note section in my phone that's just like super long. And it's all categorized, but like, here's expenses, here's equipment, and then now I basically take that and then put it into a Google Slides, and it looks nice and is organized, because I do have to present this to the financing, to the bank for financing. So then I just take everything, organize it, make it a little bit cleaner, a little bit clearer, and then that's my plan. So then I can take that to the bank and say, here's the money I need, here's how we're going to execute it, here's how I'm able to pay you back. I take this to my facility manager, like, here's the plan, here's the target metrics we're looking for, here's what their sales, here's how we're going to launch our founders club, here's how much we're going to have on equipment, like, and they're fully aware of everything. And then the nice thing about the second location is just copy and paste pretty much from what we currently do. But from the Ninja Gym, it's the exact same thing. Just they're like, I have this general idea and I got to clean it up a little bit. What are the questions I need to answer in order to have a clearer picture? And I just start working through those tasks. Bam, 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 bam. And it starts getting a little bit more clear, a little more clear. Then I got all this information. I kind of like asked all the questions I feel comfortable. Then I put down that business plan in a more organized, presentable form, and then it's execute time.
That is, dude. It's like, I'm just thinking through. It is like, would you consider the set of skills that you've sort of developed as like business superpowers? Right? It's like,
well, yeah, it's a necessary skill that you better have if you want to grow. And it's it's not even for just business. So many people just miss out on opportunities in life because they're just not willing to take a little time and effort to define it and make it a little clearer. Like, people sometimes laugh, like the way that we do our finances is we have, I don't know, it's like 13 accounts, something like that. But every account has a defined purpose. So we have a home account, we have individual spending accounts, we have a food account, we have investment.
Like profit first, is that kind of the fundamental?
Yeah, profit first. We just do that for our personal finance.
Same thing. How awesome is it? Like, ridiculously simple. Reverse budgeting.
It's reverse budgeting, because I was like, it's like I'm never ever going to track my food, and like when people
budget your food, be like, I only can spend this amount.
No, I was like, tell me what I can eat ahead of time. That's what I'm gonna do. And that's kind of the same way with finances. It's like, I'm gonna predefine where every single dime, a dollar that I have goes. And so there's no questions about it. My wife don't have to have, discussions about if we're going to spend this money or not. It's like, is it in that account? Okay, then we can spend it.
Exactly.
And then it's the same thing with time. I don't sit there and go like, what am I going to do today? Or am I going to find the time to do this? It's like, I predetermine exactly where my time's going to go every single day. Now that, obviously that gets pushed here and there from time to time, but I know exactly what my day is going to look like every single day because I plan that time out. And so it's the superpower is just the discipline of committing to that process.
Totally. It's so fundamental, right? It's simple, but not easy. It's like, man, so hard for people to like really get these things down. I think you're one of the few, I know a handful of people that have really got these fundamentals down, but not so many that have done it for a long enough period of time to really see the benefit, right? Because it takes a few years, it takes a number of years, 4, 5, 6 years, but it's like compounding interest. And it's like getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, going back a little bit too, because we're a little bit, I could talk about this stuff all day long, dude, but I'm thinking like about level method. And one of the big problems we have within level method, it's not a big problem, but it is a problem. It's people not implementing it properly, not because it's a systems-based program, and we got a lot of stuff, and there's step-by-step things that need to happen. So like when you decided to implement level method, I think you said back in January, and how did that process go with your systems and everything? And also maybe just talk us through like the thinking behind level method and in terms of your business, why you felt like it was a good fit.
So, I mean, obviously, I personally like having a strategic plan in place and having objective measurement tools to know if I'm getting better or not. And the beautiful thing about the weight room is that's pretty objectively, or that's easily to measure. You either did more reps, more weight, so on and so forth. And we, like I said, we had somewhat of a like level type categorization for our clients to like improve, but it wasn't as in depth or like there's only 4 levels, and so like some of the gaps were just like some people are like, well, there's 0 chance I'm making the gap from level 3 to level 4. Like,
and it's discouraging. They're like, what the hell am I even doing?
Exactly, it's very discouraging. And I think one of the biggest things that I liked about level method was it takes the subjective choice out of the individual and the coach. Because sometimes what would happen is in class, somebody's like, well, I feel like I can do RX. It's like you can, but you shouldn't, because it's not going to be the correct dosing for what you need. Or hey, look, dude, you need to do RX. Like you need to push
either way, it happens.
And so the nice thing about the level method was it's very clear and objective. Like if you're purple, you do purple. If you're orange, you do orange. Like it's not there's not a subjective like conversation between the coach and the client and And it just makes it very clear. Hey, here's where you are. Here's where you need to go in order to get better, right? And so we saw the benefit. I saw the benefit in it right from the get go. After talking with Scott and kind of learning a little bit more about it, like, oh yeah, that's perfect. And so then I shared it with the coaches. Hey, this is what I want to do. And then we pretty much just followed the
plan,
like whatever, y'all send this to your members, like, okay, cool. And just did that exactly. And the members loved it. And we only had, think of one person was like, I don't know about this. And guess who it was? It was the competitor in the group who didn't want to like do it and find out they weren't really red, and we've got people who are pretty daggone fit, who are red, who were like, I love this thing. This is awesome. So across the board, all the coaches loved it. All the clients loved it. We executed it exactly the same way it was laid out as how to execute it.
Right there makes me feel like knowing you and knowing how you, and then the fact that you went and then you had success. It's like, it's nice to hear that, because I know that you went through everything exactly how it would be laid out.
Yeah. We sent them the messages. I think we did whatever the 2 or 3 week.
The onboarding.
Yeah, onboarding. And we made all the coaches go through it first, and they were, oh, okay, like, cool, like, I see, yeah, this is cool. And so, yeah. And then as it's continued to grow, more and more people like are bought into it because they're seeing themselves level up.
Right.
They'll make the progress and go, oh, cool, like this is what I need to work on.
And like one of the things about that is like, white, yellow, orange, blue, these folks are going to be leveling up no matter what. But the difference is that now you have a way of recognizing and quantifying their improvements, which is super important for people because it's like without that aspect, what am I doing here? Like I can't really tell I'm getting better or not.
Yeah, I think it's been awesome, especially for some of our less experienced athletes who like maybe financially they couldn't quite commit to like doing 3 or 4 days a week of personal training. But they were like a little hesitant about doing group training. Mm-hmm. They'd go through the level method and go, oh, okay, well, I can do that. Like, oh, I'm like a lot of times they like expect themselves to be white on everything. Oh, I got yellow or orange. Like, okay, all right, go. They would feel like more excited about it. And then in the class, from their standpoint and from the coach's standpoint, it wasn't like, hey, what can you do? Do we need to scale this? Like, like where they feel like they're like, I was making an exception for them or trying to solve like how they
like a special thing that makes them feel like, oh, like what's like I'm not shouldn't be here.
Yeah, there's like I do white or I do yellow. Cool. There we go. I know it. I got and the coach is like, hey, you know what you're doing? You're good. Like, yep, I know all these exercises. We went over it in the Kickstarters, and I feel comfortable with this, and I'm ready to go. And then so
like, what are your keys? Like when you're thinking about level method and from a system standpoint and from your operational standpoint, what have you found as the most important like keys to have in place and sort of disciplines to keep in place to have continued success? One,
like having to do the Kickstarters, like we don't let anyone jump into class. Like you have to go through the Kickstarters, you have to go through the one-on-ones and get an actual level before you can join class. One thing that we do, which I think has been helpful, is we do 5 one-on-one Kickstarters, and then we do a 6 Kickstarter with a coach in class with you. It's kind of like a handoff into class. And that's been super helpful. Versus saying like, okay, so remember in class, you're going to be doing da-da-da-da.
Right, it's like you guide them through like the day-to-day decision-making that needs to happen. Like, okay, this is the way. That's really super smart.
Yeah, bingo. We also send a video on like how to use Chalk It Pro.
Okay.
Hey everyone, this is David. I'm gonna show you how to do Chalk It Pro, and I'm showing them on my phone how to just where everything is, so that they're actually in Chalk It Pro tracking their stuff, tracking their levels. Like so, when they go through the Kickstarters, the coaches are like, download Chalk It Pro. Okay, you put in your levels. Versus like a coach punching in your level, we want them to get on the app and put in their levels so they get some.
They're doing it. I think that's super. Man, I'm gonna pull some of these ideas. I think
absolutely. So that they start getting a habit of doing it themselves. We print so we have a CSM, client success manager, who I don't know how often he does it, maybe it's every week or 2 weeks or something, but they print off any level up certificates. They go ahead and print them off, and then we have them sitting on our whiteboard like ready for the client. So they're just sitting there like with their name on it, and the coach goes, oh, who's got a level up? Hey, Sherry's got a level up today. Come here, Sherry, we can take a picture with you. One thing we weren't able to do was like print them off right then and there. We have two different buildings, and that was like, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do this. But it hasn't really made that big of an impact and not give it to them right then and there. They still get the thing the next day and they're happy about it and they take the picture. And then we have magnets that we put on a board that like has their level. So like there's a board with their names on it. And so when they level up a color, they get a new magnet, they put their magnet up on the board. So there's like we want to have a visual representation within the facility. Hey, you can see what your level is, and a physical reward that we're handing them. So they're being given the certificate and they're putting that up in the building. Like
permanent recognition on the wall and then personal recognition with the actual level up. I love that.
Yeah. And we take pictures of both of those, and those become obviously marketing opportunities as well.
Awesome, man. I think, this is all of this stuff has been super, super valuable. And I really hope that people are listening to this. I've said that a couple times. But to, wrap it up, recommended sort of for a gym owner coming through, depending on where they are, either books or just recommendations on things that they should go down rabbit holes, even mentoring, or like, what would you advise for learning to get to the next level for gym owners out there?
Yeah, 1,000% I would recommend mentoring. There's someone out there who has more experience than you, knows the ins and outs a little bit better, and can actually take an objective point of view to your business. Your business is your baby. You're going to have a subjective point of view to it. And sometimes it's helpful to have someone who's not emotionally attached to any of that.
I have the prettiest baby in the world.
Hey, right, that's great, but it doesn't make you any money. So it's time to change that up, right? So the beauty of having a mentor is that it's someone who has an objective point of view, can guide you and help keep you accountable. I also think it's very important to be in contact with other peers. Like I don't have any peers here. My wife's not my peer. She doesn't own a business. She doesn't own a fitness business. My staff are not my peers. They're all my friends and my family. And I love them to death, but there's certain things I can't share.
They don't do what you do.
Yeah, I can't share emotionally with them. There are business owners I know, but they're not fitness business owners. So being part of a group of other peers or talking with peers on a regular basis, whether it's like this or whether it's in your own hometown, being around other peers that you can at least share insight, emotion, and collaborate with is super important. As far as books go, I'm not a super big fan of just like constantly consuming business help books because I think sometimes that just gets you in the weeds a little bit. You're always like trying to change things that like may or may not need changing. So like a rotation that I'll go through is I try to read like some type of professional development book. It may be like the last one I read, I think was Traction. But also maybe something like whatever Jocko's latest book was. So I'll go through something like that. Then I may read kind of like a non-business but non-fiction book that's
perspective, like outside stuff.
Yeah, it's like the latest one I read was Comfort Crisis.
Okay.
Which is a great book. I'd highly recommend reading that. And then I'll usually read some type of historical perspective. It may be a biography. I'm reading one called Chaos right now, which is about the Manson murders. It's more
fascinating.
Holy crap, this is bonkers. It's just something to kind of like relieve my brain of the constant
the same patterns.
Yeah, that's why I try not to read constant business books because then I'll tweak too many things. I like to have an idea and enough time to kind of like digest it and then maybe implement what needs to be implemented and see how it works versus like every 2 weeks trying to implement some new business thing.
Right. Or listening to audiobooks at 2 times speed over and over and over, like every freaking book you can find.
And I don't do good with audiobooks. I listen to podcasts for news. So I spend all day in the gym, so I don't want to listen to music like in my car. I listen to music literally all day. So in my car, I usually listen to news so I can stay somewhat up to date, and then I read every night. And that's how I kind of go through my books. So I think one of the better strategies instead of just consuming business books is like working with a mentor and having someone kind of go, you know what, this is a book that you should read that would apply to like where you are now.
Yeah, it's like curated, good, like applicable book.
Yeah. Last year I read, what's the name of it? It's something in crisis. Forged in Crisis, something like that. It was a historical perspective about different leaders in like times of crisis. So like one was Abraham Lincoln through the Civil War. One was like a captain who went on a trip to Antarctica and got shipwrecked and saved almost all his men. So it was like, okay, I probably need to read something like that. We're going through this COVID.
Yeah, and what I'm going through isn't that hard.
Yeah, that's somewhat motivated. It's like, okay, like, to get a leadership perspective. At that point in time, it wasn't like reading a marketing book wasn't gonna like help out. I was like, I need to read something that's gonna motivate me to like lead in this crisis situation. So that's kind of how I'll structure my personal education.
Now, did you get that idea from somewhere, or did you just sort of do it on your own, just rotating through?
Yeah, like a lot of times what I'll do is if I see a book and I'm like, ooh, that's a good book, I need to read that at some point, I'll order it. I'll just go ahead and order it. And then I have like a stack of books.
You have a backlog.
The backlog, and then I just kind of go, that's the one that'll be applicable to this situation. Or if I'm talking to someone, I'll say, hey, read any good books that apply to like what you're doing now? Or if I talk to someone who's going through something like, you read any books about this or anything that you find helpful? And if they say yes, then I kind of like, okay, cool, I'll order that book and have it in a backlog so I can go back and read it. But I mean, I read a good 30 to 60 minutes before I go to bed every night. So I can knock out a book in about 2 to 6 weeks, depending how big it is.
That's awesome. And I love that. I love that strategy. I do something similar. I have a big, long backlog in different areas, and I kind of go through and I'm like, okay, and then I'll either order or listen to it. But I think that having a diverse input, different inputs, not just the same streamlined input. You need raw information from all sorts of different places, because this is how you make connections that you would never make, right? Things that like, oh, and then you get a story about something and it matches perfectly and it like helps you communicate. So I think that that's beautiful. And yeah, man, I want to thank you so much for sharing all this stuff. Just so much gold in this one. And I mean, we're speaking the same language when it comes to systems and stuff. I freaking love this stuff. So yeah, any last words? How would people get in contact with you? That's really what I like. If someone wanted to touch base with you or whatever, what would people do? Yeah, my email is david@nbsfitness.net. Make sure you put .net, not .com. Or you can find me on Facebook, David Allen. There's a lot of David Allen. So if you can't find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram. It's NBS Fitness Owner. And yeah, we reach out either of those ways. Email is the best to get an actual response. Awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks so much for joining me. And I look forward to seeing what you do and, touching base over the next few months. Absolutely, bud. No problem.